Right, hello and welcome to this week's angling vlog. Today you join me on the banks of the river and we're in search of silvers on the Bolo and the feeder. So conditions today are in stark contrast to a recent vlog where we fished the feeder when it had not stopped raining all week. This week we've had a bit of drizzle, but they've forecast this bank holiday weekend to be well into the 20s, close to 30 degrees in parts of the country. So we're in for a warm day. The swim that we've chose today is quite deep, and it might be quite weird to sound that we have chose a deep venue and it's going to be warm. Sometimes when you pick a deep venue, and today we are talking 15 to 16 foot, it can play into your hands. Them lower layers of the water are cool, and if the fish are already down there, you can keep them down there and there's less chance of them coming up on the top and affecting the fishing. So today we're going to try and get them fish on the bottom and catch them in them lower layers. To keep them fish in them lower layers, you've obviously got to go with heavy baits and tactics that keep the bait down there. As you can see on screen now, the Bolo rod that we're going to fish with is my Preston Innovation 17 foot rod, and we've got a 3 gram Bolo down to a Dinsmore 2.5 gram Olivet and some number 4 droppers down to a 2 pound hook link and a size 20 hook. So that Olivet is going to keep that bait in them lower layers. Feeder rod is a Corum Ambition 11 foot rod, and I've paired that with a Corum reel, and it's got 6 pound line on the main line because you want a nice strong line for casting the feeder, and that's down to a 3 pound hook link and a size 12 hook. So when you're going to attack a deep swim like this, your bait has also got to be, in tune with your tactics. Before I set up any of the tackle today, I mixed up 1.5 kilos of Bait Tech Pro natural ground bait, left it to settle, and then removed the lumps about 5 minutes ago. Into that I've loaded it with Cheshire Particle hemp and casters from Angler's Arc. That heavy balls of ground bait have gone in on the Bolo line, and I'm going to leave that to settle and start on the feeder. But that's a heavy bait straight down onto the bottom where you want that Olivet to fish. Casters are also an inert bait, so you're hoping that you're going to miss out them smaller fish on the drop and that bait is going to get down to the bottom. Hemp seed is a fantastic heavy bait that you can also feed by hand by the catapult, and it's also going to get down in them layers in the water as well. So you're all aimed at keeping them fish down on the bottom where you want to catch them. And that's the swim. Been feeding me balls of ground bait down this line here, hoping to catch fish on this line. And I'm going to feed the feeder probably midway across and just start on that and keep feeding hemp down this line, and then after about half an hour we'll have a look on that Bolo line to see if there is any fish showing on it. There's an idea of how deep the swim is. You can see there's my hook, and all the way at the other end of the rod, which is a 17 foot rod, is the Bolo. So you get an idea of how deep the swim is and what we're dealing with. It's got a nice pace, and hopefully we can get a few bites. So making the first cast on the feeder, and while I'm doing so I'm just going to feed hemp on the Bolo line just so there's bait going down for when we go on it. Not too much, because obviously you don't know how the session's going to fish, from the off, and just give it time to settle. As I say, I fed 2 big balls of ground bait on that line as well. So hopefully when we go on it there'll be 1 or 2 fish. Which had a little wrap on the tip there on the first cast, which is also a good sign that there's 1 or 2 fish about on the feeder. And the first fish of the day on the first cast is always a good start. A little roach. And second fish on the feeder, again it feels like a roach the way it's jagging. It's a nice one. And I say they keep coming all day, we'll have a nice day's fishing. Second roach of the day on the feeder, and a nice stamp to begin with. Just putting double maggot on the hook and hemp and caster in the feeder. Getting a few bites on the feeder, and I said I'd give it about half an hour, and hit a snag, and it's just lost the whole setup. So I thought have a go on the Bolo. The first trot down on caster we've got a roach, so that's a good sign that one or two fish have come onto that ground bait and that hemp that we've been feeding while we've been on the feeder line. For those that haven't fished with a Bolo before, it's really like a big pole float really in its design, and it's got quite a bit of weight to it. They go up to, you know, 8 to 10 gram at times. Today we're just fishing with a 3 gram one, but the bite, considering how far apart your weight is in your float, are always really positive for the Bolo. Sometimes when they're really on it, you can't miss the bite. It's a bit like carp on a commercial in the margin, and if you can get it right, it is a really good method for fishing really deep water. It's certainly my go-to method when I'm fishing swims over probably 12 foot in depth. That's when I start to think about using the Bolo. There's that fish, more what we were hoping to get on the feeder rod, but if they're going to come on the float, we can certainly catch them a bit quicker on that line. That was a lovely fight in that deep water. So as you begin to get one or two bites, you begin to notice that the bites in the swim begin to come in the same type of area, and that is where the hemp and the ground bait is all reaching the bottom and your bait's going through at that depth, and all these fish are just coming that nice distance down the swim. And this looks like a skimmer, and certainly one or two fish are down there at the moment. It is a bite every trot down the swim. It's fantastic fishing. Skies and a nice fish on the Bolo. It's lovely fishing, and I've had this rod for a number of years now, this 17-foot rod from Preston's, and it's caught me dace on the River Dee, and it's got a lovely action to it for fishing for them smaller silvers. And this is another one of them quality stamp roach, and they say they've got to be in the 6 to 8 ounce range. I'm certainly putting together a few bites and an enjoyable bank holiday session on the bank. And with the sun just coming up over the hill, that's a lovely roach, that. And that is the stamp that I was hoping for today when I was using the hemp and the casters as bait. Absolutely fin perfect. It scales, not one out of place. And a lot of the times on the blog you see me talk about using red maggot at the start just to get bites when you're fishing with caster, and you can get away with it. I've just moved over to a caster on the hook because the quality of the fish is of a standard where I think it's time to start fishing with that caster on the hook and target the better quality fish that are in the swim. And that's how you can start off on maggot and then move over to the caster to try and get them better quality fish. It is a question that gets asked quite a lot on the blog, is why I fish maggot when I'm using caster, and then how do you know when to move over? And hopefully that little bit there has answered that question. If you start getting regular 6 to 8 ounce fish, then it generally is time to start moving over to the caster on the hook, because you will pick out them better quality fish. That's what I was saying there in practice. I move over to caster, and you've got that better quality roach on the first time using it. Absolutely loving this session so far. A bite of truck on the Bolo and great fun. Just decided to feed 2 more of them big balls of ground bait, and really that is just to keep the fish in the swim. There's that many bites coming that what you've got to do now is keep them fish in the swim. So 2 of them big balls of ground bait laced with the hemp caster and a few micro pellets. I've just gone in and purely, like I say, just to keep them fish coming and to keep feed down there and the fish on the bottom. These river sessions are the ones that I really enjoy, the ones where you can feed heavily with the maggot and the caster and the big balls of ground bait, and when the fish are responding to it and you're getting, you know, like then I just fed, and before I had a chance to pick the rod up, that Bolo had sailed away. And like I said, these are the sessions that I love on the river. Normally synonymous with winter, you know, when you get them big shoals of dace on the roach, you can really attack them. But today these fish have really been on the bait. Like we said earlier, that caster really does pick out them better quality fish. So flicking the Bolo out, feeding really positively with the hemp, not putting the caster in every trot down, and say, because a lot of it's in the ground bait. Feeding it by hand, you will get the fish coming up. So a lot of that caster is in the ground bait, and just edging that float through the swim, and it is a nice distance from the bank where you can get right behind the float, and there's the fish. Hooked into the best fish of the day, and it's just staying really deep. I say easily the best fish that we've hooked into today. And so you just got to remember you're only on a 2 pound hook link, but it just feels solid. It's not coming up to the top, can't really bully them. I say it feels a very, very nice fish. It's either foul hooked or we're into a very nice fish. Just got to take your time, try and get it in. It's a lovely fish. And say, let's see if we can get him in. And he's in the net. And there we go. There's that lovely fish. Looks like a roach bream hybrid. More bream than roach, I think, but what a fight in that water. They say 15-16 foot deep, and a light hook link, and just coming over that ground bait with the hempen caster. A great fight. Fish of the session so far, plenty of bites. Let's get this fish straight back. So we had a bit of a lull between 12 and 1 where the swim went a bit funny, which is to be expected. You know, you can't expect to catch fish every trot down all day. You're always going to get peaks and troughs. But in this last hour of the session, the fish have turned on, and what a lovely roach that is. And like I said on a recent video, when we had the bream and the roach turn up, one thing that I love about river fishing is how the different species move in the swim. That's a lovely billy. Like all river perch, its colours are vibrant. So no finer sign of a good day's fishing than an empty ground bait bowl. There's 1.5 kilo of bait in that at the start. It just shows how much feed we've put in the swim today to hold that shoal here. No finer sign of a good day's fishing. And what a lovely roach to end the session on. It's been an enjoyable day's fishing on the Bolo. I had plenty of these roach. Well, that's a lovely one to end on. Right, so the session comes to an end there now. It's always good when you start off with a plan and it works. Them roach today and them bream were on that hemp, casters and ground bait. At the start we set out an idea of, you know, fishing on the bottom for them in quite deep water, and it's worked a treat. As you can see on screen now, we've ended the day with just over 21 pound of quality roach and that nice skimmer or hybrid, and it has been a thoroughly enjoyable day on the bank. A lot of people that contact me are scared about deep swims, and there is nothing to be scared about as long as you get your tactics right and the bait right, so the food is in the right area of the swim that you're fishing. It's just a matter of practice and getting it right. Today them fish were really on it and I really enjoyed it. It's a bit of a glimpse towards winter, that fishing today. They were proper on the feed. I hope you've enjoyed this vlog as much as I've enjoyed the session on the bank. If you are new around here, it'd be great if you could subscribe and leave the video a like. Tight lines in your own fishing, and I'll catch you all next week. Tight lines.